Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan, and I am not supposed to be recording a podcast right now. I'm actually hiding in my hotel room from my wife, who told me that I cannot work this week because it's spring break. We're on spring break. It's a little family vacation, a deload week in Destin, Florida, the Kentucky Riviera, as we call it. It's absolutely gorgeous here, by the way. If you haven't been to Destin, it is crazy. White sand beaches, turquoise water. The kids are happy, and I'm happy too. Isn't it nice to take a tropical vacation after you send the proj? Has that ever happened? I don't know if that's ever happened to me. Usually I'm here and I'm like, no, I need to get back home. I need to stay in shape. I didn't bring anything. I didn't bring any lifting blocks, or usually I bring my force board, my force gauge, so I can like work out my fingers. I brought nothing except for sleeves and sleeves of Oreo cookies and donuts and margarita mix. Oh man, it's all falling apart here. It's all going ham. But anyway, I'm hiding out in the hotel room right now because I decided that even though I had originally planned to not put out an episode this week, to just take the week off right before we got in the car and drove down here for spring break, I had a conversation with Kevin Cuckovich, my coach slash trainer from over at Kilter, about just kind of what do we do now? I sent the thing and we're in the middle of a training block. And what do I do? And we just kind of talked through like, how do we adjust my plan? What can summer goals be that will hopefully, prepare me and set me up well for my fall sport goals? And what are those goals even? And anyway, we had this conversation and I recorded it because I thought I'd want to maybe revisit it. And then I just listened back to it and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty good stuff. So I'm going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it out in the universe here on the podcast. And I'm not going to put any ads or anything in this one. It's just a conversation between me and Kevin. And as you probably heard, there's no music. I got no music. I didn't do anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm recording this intro right now before my family busts me and pulls me out to the ocean. And then next week, we will be back at it, and I've got some bangers lined up. We got Weekend Warrior, we've got a special Earth Day episode, we've got a fantastic coach conversation with one of the most highly requested guests in the struggle history, is certainly in recent history. So some real bangers coming up, and I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you. And I'm going to unplug for a handful of days now, but I hope you enjoy this conversation with me and the man over at Kilter, Coach Kevin Cuckovich. This is the first time that you and I are talking. We messaged, of course, after I sent the thing. I sent you the video right away. And it was such a proud day, Kevin, because you have trained me for 6 months now or something like that. I don't know exactly when we started over the summer when I put the Kilter board in the basement. It felt like it was like very linear steps. Like you just wrote me a few different plans and I did those plans. And then lo and behold, I did the thing. How about that?
Yeah. Well, you did it quick and you were psyched. And then I think also you didn't even really dedicate it entirely to bouldering at first because you had a nice fall where you wanted to be able to do kind of some training and sport climbing. And then you maximize your time and you got a lot of sport routes done too.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I tried to find some kind of more bouldery sport routes and I did, only my second 12D/13A, however we want to call that route, Maisie May, and then a really proud 12C and some other kind of 512 routes. And yeah, I didn't even really tuck into the boulder until January. And so we were training really hard off the wall as well as on the wall, but I didn't even really start going hard on Bulldog until just this winter here. But one of the other things that I was doing, of course, was working my way up through the Kilter full ride grades. And I got to say this because I know we talked about grades early on. You and Jackie and I did that conversation for the show. And we talked about how different boards are kind of their own thing. They're in their own grading ecosystem, but you all felt that the Kilter home wall, the full ride, was pretty true to what people would likely find outdoors. And at least in my experience, that rang true because I've climbed a handful of sevens, I don't know how many, probably 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, V7s. I hadn't climbed a V8 yet on the Kilter board, but I'm super, super close. And so I think it's pretty impressive and credit to you all that the grading at least seems close. I mean, I'm now my next goal is to climb the V8 on the Kilter board. I honestly thought in my mind I would climb V8 on Kilter first and then do the outside because the Kilter is more accessible. But however it worked out, they were like neck and neck. They were in a race, and so I ticked the outside 8, and I still need to tick the inside 8. I think.
Yeah. People get frustrated with board grades. Either they're too soft or they're too hard. Like there's always kind of a complaining no matter what.
Right.
But you can always find a thing that is going to be hard for you at whatever grade, whether it's, just a nails hard V5, and then you go outside and you're climbing your first 7.
Right.
Like the grades are what you want them to be on a board. And I kind of am liking the idea that like maybe I find things that I suck at that I don't do 6C on a board, but I go outside and do a couple 9s at a couple goes. Like it doesn't matter what the board is as long as like I'm training hard.
Yeah, that's a good point because there are for sure some 5s and maybe some V4s, dude, that I wasn't able to do. I mean, Jimmy Webb's got a couple on there that I'm like, this is fucked. There's just no way I'm doing this V4. So it's a good point. Like the V7s that I've done have been very much like in my style, in my wheelhouse. And then there's definitely like 4s and 5s that I'm still not either strong enough or just good enough to position into. And I'm excited for all of that. So yeah, we should talk about, I guess, because I'm kind of in the middle of this training plan that you wrote for me, where we're still doing the one arm dead hangs, on the large edge, removing some weight. But I've been getting better and better on those. We're doing a series of different kind of pull ups with pauses at different parts of the rotation, and then I'm doing normal conditioning. And then you've got this steeper limit Kilter board program that you wrote for me for the full ride, where we're kind of working between 45 and 55 degrees, and going pretty hard on like hard projects, things that I'm not likely to send anytime soon. But at the same time, I just sent the rig, and I'm excited to hopefully click my first V8 on the Kilter. But I also want to put some emphasis on sport climbing. So I'm curious where you think my training plan goes from here.
We're heading into just kind of the no man's land of like North America climbing. Like, or either if you want to boulder outside, you're going to 10,000 feet or above somewhere, or you're going to Canada, or you're going to the Southern Hemisphere. So it's kind of like your training program goes kind of where you want it to go. You can tuck in and go hard into like bouldering more, or, switch and it's a little more well-rounded, gets you some more sport fitness, keeps the strength up, and then maybe gets you outside on like a good sport day every now and then, or you're traveling. So it just kind of depends on the goals. And I think like tucking in and just going hard on training you can do that a little bit, but at a certain point, like you need to get out, you need to go try something, go on a trip, just kind of, dick around on sport routes in the heat.
Right.
As long as that's kind of like you get some time for that, I think, anything's possible.
It's an interesting thought experiment for me to essentially try to figure out what the goal is, because the goal for so long had been Bulldog. And now there's still the mini goal of wanting to do the V8 on the Kilter. So I would like us to at least try to remain focused on that. I still feel very primed, and I'm in the best bouldering shape of my life without contest. And I'm really liking the one arm dead hangs, and I've been making steady improvement on those. I usually like remove 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds of assistance about every week to 2 weeks, kind of depends on like how hard it was. But, I started by removing 45 pounds from my body. And I think the last one I did, I was removing 27.5 pounds, and it felt well within margin. So the next time it'll be 20, I'll remove 25 pounds. So it's, 20 pounds better, if you will, on those one arm dead hangs. So a lot of what you've programmed for me is friggin' working. And I'm inclined to keep it going, but maybe we shift slightly more into a maintenance phase of like the cadence or the volume so that I can also start to feather in more endurance training. Because I do think when you're asking me about like my goals, I think my big goals for the fall will be sport routes that are endurance based. I'm at the Red. It's an endurance climbing paradise. And I kind of like the idea of swinging the pendulum the exact opposite way. So I went from, a 10 move objective to 130 move objective or something. I think that could be fun. And I think it'd be really fun to explore how I can train some endurance on my kilter board as well in my
Yeah.
basement. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm like partway through this plan that you wrote for me. Do we continue the plan? But maybe I just, instead of doing 2 sessions a week, it's 1.5, or, like one every 5 days instead of 2 every 7 days. Or do we look at finishing it as programmed and then starting a new phase after that? I don't know. How do you deal with people that like accomplish the goal in the middle of a plan and then are no longer like as singularly driven as they were before they had the goal?
It's pretty easy. The conditioning, the weights, that can stay the same and finish that, and that's no problem. And then the skill stuff and the stuff on the wall changes to a bit more base building. Like, you're going to get benefit from strength training, the hangs, regardless of what your overall goals are. But then kind of the base you build on the wall, the energy systems you work there, those can shift to another kind of longer term, bigger, broader concept of like just that base of the pyramid, like a solid foundation that lets you go in either direction whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of shifts to kind of back to that, almost that original plan we had with kind of the 8 to 10 boulders, limited tries, but we can make some modifications in that you start with that limit 8 for the very first like half hour. And then you get some time in on that, you get some progress, and then you go to a bit more volume, getting some stuff done, building, like just being able to take new things down pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little more kind of wild cards to it, like a little less stuff that I pick and a little more like, okay, what is this? Is this going to fit? Can I do this? And then you just give it a go and see where you stack up, because you could randomly pull a V4 on that thing and it could take you longer than the V7 you did like last session.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I like that though. I mean, I definitely want to because this one particular V8 and then a couple others that you gave me, I feel are within reach. I'm excited to keep going at those. Like they got their claws in me. So there's just like high motivation to keep doing that. But I like the idea of just kind of taking a look at a session and saying, okay, get a really good warm up, try the limit project for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, as long as I'm getting quality goes on it, feeling like I'm making some progress, and then end the session with a little bit more volume, things I could maybe flash or do second go. And that's fun too. It's just more fun to be able to, so I'm not like slamming my head at something, for an entire session. I actually get to send some things at the end.
Yeah.
Well, I'll think about doing that then. And I'm about to take a family vacation for spring break. So it's going to be like a full deload week, which is nice because it's right on the heels of sending the project as well. So I'm just going to do like a full kind of deload. And then I'll come back after that feeling, I think, probably really fresh and renewed psych. And I'll dive back into those kilter sessions. Should I keep going with the one-arm dead hangs as well and the conditioning just as we've been doing?
Yeah, I think like you can start to cycle them up and down. So I kind of have like two kind of main chunks of my training program for myself is kind of the on the wall stuff and then the off the wall, and everything like cycles up and down. Like it's never just a linear up constantly. I kind of keep a track on like the time of each hang and like basically how I feel on each session. And so like I'll cycle through basically like trying to push, like just go limit for the hangs. Like, so this last session, I was like, okay, no weight. Like, let's see how many sets we can do. Just one arm, not taking weight. We haven't done that in a while. We'll check. Did all my sets, good form, one arm, not taking weight, like 8 seconds each. Like, okay, I am now taking it down a notch. So I'm going to start back over on the hangs, taking 45 pounds off, and then work back up to like them feeling even more solid. And then we'll try that again. Because it's a consistency thing with hands, especially. And it's also isometrics. So you're not really ramping necessarily like the muscles, but almost the neurological aspects in that motor unit recruitment. Like how quickly can I snap those things going? Not a bad snap though. And then with hangs or like climbing, it kind of cycles back and forth. Like I'm not psyched. I don't need to be trying like my seasonal wall projects. I need to be trying like a daily project, something I will try this week and maybe only this week for a month, another month. And then I'll see it again in like a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. And then just kind of ramping those things back and forth. And we can tweak it so that everything kind of does that. Like you'll see your hard eights that you want to try, however much you want to try them. But, you know, maybe it's a couple tries a session and then it's some like 5, 6, 7s.
Yeah.
Or it's just a ton of volume. It just all kind of depends on how you're feeling. But what are the indications that you need to take it down a notch versus
Right.
should you be ramping the wall?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for just where I'm at, because we're going to be pushing into summer, and summer at the Red is not the best time. So I'll be doing quite a bit of training indoors. And so if I'm feeling psyched and I want to go hard, I've got those projects that I can light up and give some goes on and just check in on them over the course of weeks or months or whatever. But I also want to try to maintain as much as possible this like strength that you've helped me to create over the last 6 months, which has translated, as we've talked about, to routes in ways that have absolutely blown my mind, where I don't have maybe much in the endurance tank at all because I haven't been doing, you know, really any focused endurance training. And yet I'm finding myself able to rest my way up hard, kind of 11 plus 12 minus routes, because every move just feels so much easier. You know, like I'm not tapping into the anaerobic because everything's so easy. I'm just staying aerobic, you know, like I'm just like every move feels more like a V0 instead of a V2, like it felt like a year ago, for example. So I don't want to backslide. I don't have to remain in peak bouldering form, but like I also don't want to just jettison all of this stuff that we've worked so hard to gain. And so what does that look like just from a practical point of view? You know, what does a maintenance thing look like? If I really start doing quite a bit of endurance training and route training, how much hard bouldering or of these one-arm dead hangs or whatever should I keep in just to make sure we're maybe not at peak, but also not losing it?
I think like the one-arm dead hangs, anything that is kind of a combination of structural stability that's not going to be like limit on your hands, you can do that twice a week and it not tax you, but it also can kind of keep pushing you in the right direction. It is progressive overload. Like everything is progressive overload. So if you are going a little bit longer, resting a little bit less, taking a little more weight off, not necessarily doing all of those things on the exact same day,
right? But
that's still building you forward, and that's still causing some stimulus and some stress that allows your body to make changes. For weights, climbing is interesting, especially bouldering, in that like it's a skill sport, but it is highly strength related. So, you know, traditional kind of sports that are less skill and more strength, like you know, track and field, powerlifting, all these things that are just so strength based, their maintenance has to be more. Like they have to keep doing stuff because if they stop lifting, they're not doing anything.
Right.
If you're bouldering and you're climbing, you can lift once a week and maintain, even make some improvements, because you're also climbing 2 or 3 days of the week as well. So I'm switching to like a more of a maintenance phase right now. I'm doing the eccentric pulls I had you doing at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like one day a week. So I started 4 weeks ago, and I've increased my weight on that eccentric and the number of eccentric pulls I can do, like pull-ups I can do after the eccentric, 10 pounds and 3 reps, like 2 reps. So just doing
Wow.
once a week. So
Yeah.
it's like, because I'm also have a little more energy for climbing and I'm cycling it up and down. So you can build these things because you are also doing the energy, doing the pulls, doing the strength in your activity. You're not just living to lift, you're climbing. But if you are
Yeah.
doing more sport stuff, the weights should be like a tiny bit harder than if you're just doing bouldering.
Got it. Yeah, essentially I want to, because I will be doing hard moves on these sport climbs. There's always like a crux or whatever, but it's just not going to be anywhere near as hard as what we were doing when we were, very singularly focused on bouldering. Yeah, I'll play around with that. I mean, I really like, just because of my lifestyle too, being busy and the kids and the red being a couple hours away. I just I'm able to fit training in much easier than like big climb days. And so my big climb days, I'll be out on routes and scoping out fall projects and having fun. And then the training, I can fit in hangs a couple times a week, no problem. I can fit in conditioning, deadlift and shoulder press or incline bench press and those kinds of things, weighted pull-ups in between conference calls or when the kids go to bed. So I'm not too worried about that. Kilter, I'm just always psyched. So I'll no doubt I'll get a minimum of one session in a week. But then on days where
Yeah.
I'm not going out climbing outside, maybe I'll get in a couple Kilter sessions. One's a little bit more volume. And yeah, I wanted to talk about that because we do have a gym here in town that I'm a member of that fortunately didn't close. It was closed and then it reopened, but they've got a lead cave. They've got auto belays and that. So I can go train my route climbing there if it's just too gross to get outside. And I know that I've seen on Kilter like the kind of circuits feature, but I've never done it because we've just been focusing on route climbing. And my board only the easiest quote unquote it gets is like 35 degrees. So I've never tried to run laps on it, but I guess in theory I could do some endurance training on the Kilter as well.
Yeah. The only kind of thing to look out for when you're training and you're trying to do training like strength and endurance is the structure. You have limited resources in terms of what your body can do and your time. And if you throw a whole bunch of variables at it, it's not going to make the changes in one specific way versus another. So if you trained really hard strength on Monday and then really hard roots on Wednesday, your body would be like, okay, we're going to half-ass both those systems. So that's kind of where we would look at it as more of like a block approach. So it could be like a chunk of strength and a chunk of endurance, because your strength has a smaller residual window than endurance. Meaning that like if you train strength for a month, you get about a month of time before that strength decreases. You train endurance for a month, you get like a month-ish and a half before that endurance decreases. So you train strength for a month, and then you move to endurance for 2-3 weeks, you hop back on the strength. You shouldn't have lost very much or at all any of that strength from that previous block. And that's where they kind of cycle back and forth.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, because I get a lot of joy out of endurance climbing and training for endurance. It's like a little bit of a different type of pain cave that you got to go into when you're just like working the pump. But between the gym, the Kilter that I have, and then also I think I've mentioned to you that I found on Marketplace an old tread wall that I'm kind of refurbishing and I'm going to be putting together here shortly. I made a deal with myself that I was not allowed to assemble the tread wall until I sent Bulldog, because then I would, probably just like get distracted and want to go just climb laps on the tread wall. And so it's just been sitting in pieces in my garage, and I've been refurbishing it and painting the slats and all this stuff. And so it's about ready to be put back together, and I'll have that as a tool as well. And so over the summer, and certainly as I'm preparing for the fall, I'm going to put like a high emphasis on endurance training. I want to like start my season at the red with like rocket endurance. And I'll maintain the strength, I think, with the one conditioning session a week,
Mm.
the one kilter session kind of at minimum a week, and maybe some hangs and that kind of thing, like we've talked about. But I really think I'm going to go down like some endurance rabbit holes here over the summer and kind of into the fall. So, where do you think Kilter fits into that part of the equation?
You have a lot of options in terms of what can be done, but it all requires kind of like a careful structure and like the right order.
Hmm.
When you do an assessment for any sport, any like you go to college, you're on the track and field, football team, basketball team, whatever, they put you through an assessment like kind of battery, and they order the tests you do so that test one doesn't interfere with test two, doesn't interfere with test three. And so
Hmm.
that same logic applies to your training. If you do a ton of endurance and then try and do like your power, like on the wall training, that endurance is going to mess with that power training you want to do later. So you would want to do a couple of snappy boulders first and then shift to like some harder routes on the wall. Like you're not going to want to just be at 50% for half an hour. You'd want to be doing some boulders, small rest, and then kind of upper limit, still anaerobic, like kind of sport climbing. And
Got
as
it.
long as you fit everything into these nice kind of like block one leads to block two or exercise one leads to exercise three, you have options that will not impact, you know, exercise two because of exercise one versus exercise three. Like everything can kind of be stacked so that you're not like pulling away so hard from your whole day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think maybe what'll make sense then is for you and I to just like connect on an email or just with the spreadsheet and figure out what makes sense with the tools that I have, which is a lot. I've got a lot at my disposal. I mean, at home, but also with the local gym and the crag. I've just got everything. It's just kind of going to be a matter of like, what's the goal and what does the time allow? But you and I can connect about that and just figure out like, okay, what is the next handful of months look like? We're still in spring and I'm still like piping strong from bulldog training. So I think I'll kind of stay the course on our current plan and
Yeah.
hopefully try to put down one of these V8s. And I want to finish up the dead hang finger training and then do a second assessment. So I did a strength assessment prior to starting this block that you wrote for me. And it'll
Mm-hmm.
be nice to do one at the end. Okay, well, I sent the project. I've improved on all these metrics on my hangs. What is it? How does that actually reflect on traditional strength assessments? I'm putting traditional in quotes, but basically like weighted hangs on a 20 mil
Yeah.
edge and like the few things that I did prior to this block. And that will maybe officially close out, if you will, this kind of singularly power and strength focused block. And we achieved the objective. So like, huzzah, we get to close it out with, as heroes. And then let's talk about like what the summer looks like. And maybe we phase it and go towards like sending some pretty cool rigs in the fall in terms of like the bigger endurance rigs. And then on the heels of the fall, we'll be getting into the winter, which will be bouldering season again. So we'll just kind
Yeah.
of rinse and repeat. And I don't know, man,
This,
the 8 went down pretty fast. Maybe we should identify a 9 next time around.
I mean, I think a good kind of goal for part of this overall thing coming up is like ticking a bunch of the things at the same time. Like you ticking some of the sport routes, you filling in that base, like kind of just bringing everything up at the same time. Like so that you don't have to necessarily worry about being like, I want to be in sport climbing shape, I want to be in bouldering shape. Like, can we bring it so that like you can boulder and you can sport climb? You
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to like switch back and forth. You can just be like, okay, maybe you're not going to be in your best bouldering shape or your best root shape, but you want to go out. There's a couple of 5s, 6s, and you just put those down. Low end 12s, just put those down, and then you switch over 13s, Bs, Cs. eights, nines, like just back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I love the idea of that because there's definitely, certainly out here in kind of like fall and winter, there's weather windows where it's great to sport climb, and then there's weather windows where it's great to boulder, and we've got access to all of it out here. And then of course there's all the stuff to do at the gym or on the Kilter board. So cool,
Yeah.
man. Well, look, dude, I just want to say again, because I know you and I have been messaging, I have to say again, just how incredibly grateful I am
Yeah.
that you helped me to get to this point. It was a pretty insane thing, Kevin, for me as a 46-year-old who had only done a couple of V4s outside to be like, yeah, I want to climb a V8. And like we did it, man. And we did it. And I say we because you've been with me, every step of the way. And I've just like never felt better. I fully transformed my body and my mind to do this thing. I mean, my shoulders, my lats, my fingers, my legs, my hamstrings got like really strong, like doing like heel hook prep and the hamstring prep and things that you had me doing. Like I'm just kind of a different climber now. And I'm really excited to see how that translates back over to other styles of climbing. But like just what you were able to help me achieve in like just the last half a year was really freaking cool, man. So thank you. Thanks for putting so much thought and time and care into it.
I mean, you did all the work. I just kind of like made you suffer a little bit. Like I didn't really have to do much.
Right.
But like just beat yourself up in a basement for a while. You got this. It's fine.
Yeah, well, you're far more thoughtful about how you beat me up than you are letting on here, at least. But yeah, thank you, and you really worked with me too. If I was just feeling demoralized by just getting crushed by too many things on the Kilter board, or little minor setbacks that I had where I got injured when I hurt my back in Vegas and all that, like you're just very supportive and you help to adapt things for me. So yeah, thanks, dude. I'm freaking hyped. Like let's see what's next. V double digits as a 50-year-old. Is it
Yeah.
possible?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you're saying 4 years for double digits. I don't think you have to wait 4 years for double digits. I think it could be a bit quicker than that.
I guess I just gotta want it. We just gotta find the right blocks, maybe.
I mean, how many sessions was Bulldog?
It's hard to pinpoint exactly because I broke it into two kind of objectives. There's puppy dog, which is the right entrance, and then full bulldog. And so I did 6 on puppy dog and I did 5 on bulldog. But in retrospect, I think, to be fair, only 2 of the puppy dog sessions actually translated to bulldog because the moves I ended up doing bulldog very different than puppy dog. They only shared like 3 moves. So I think it's probably fair to say like 7 sessions on that. Yeah. But then a lot of sessions in the basement, like on the Kilter board, as you know, 7 sessions on the thing itself, but a lot of training.
I mean, like if, I really think you can't count training sessions towards a boulder session. Because if that's the case, like it's like, then I have, things that are like hard for me technically count as like 1,000 sessions.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like the 7 to 11 sessions for a limit project is not that much. Like, is not that many at all. I know, like, we get this kind of skewed view of what like time on a limit boulder looks like.
Right.
And it is like, it's not 3 or 4 goes. It's not 3 or 4 sessions. It's not like, oh, I went on a trip and I just did this, whatever. Like, I think there's a really good version of their view of David Fitzgerald trying and doing Big Z, like an absolute monster of a climber. And he's like, yeah, this took me like 20 some sessions. It's like, yeah, that's limit climbing, is seasons, double digit days.
Right.
Like 7 to 11 sessions is, for a limit, means your limit is a lot higher.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, dude. It did seem to come together faster than I thought. Like there was like a couple sessions where I made links and I was like, holy shit, this is happening. Like I messaged you. I was like, yeah. I can pinpoint the session that I had. It was when my son was out there, where I didn't do the top half because I didn't have a spotter, as you know, but like I left that session just knowing I was going to do it. And that was crazy because that was session 4 No, that was session 3 on Bulldog. And I'd had the puppy dog sessions before that. But like, yeah, it kind of shocked me because it went from feeling super improbable, not even being able to get my butt off the pad, not generating, right? It went from that to me knowing I would do it. And that was 3 sessions. It was like a weird magic trick. It was totally crazy. So I guess that experience could happen again.
Yeah.
I don't know because this is like the only boulder I've ever projected in my life.
Well, I think like I remember it was during, I guess, the puppy dog sessions when I saw, like, you sent me a video, I think it was like day 2 on that, where you like doing the left shoulder move
Right.
and like you caught it, you like hard swing, like fought the barn door and like kind of like hard slap. And it's like, you look good, but it definitely looked like you were trying. And then the next session, you sent me that link again and you just pissed it. Like, no barn door, no foot issues, tension was solid. I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be fine. Like these, like, and they're like, all right, that's like this winter, that thing's done. And then
It's amazing, man. Well, when I first sent you a picture of the boulder, I hadn't even been on it yet, but I just sent you a picture of it. I think I was like, I think this might be it. You said, okay, this is going to be a climb where you just need to learn how to tense and relax the right things at the right times. And I didn't really even understand what you were saying at that time, to be perfectly honest, because I'd never climbed a boulder where it was like squeezing like this or like working in a ret and heel hooking and slapping and all of that. And then that statement like was something that just stuck with me session after session. And when I finally did it and I look back at the video, I can really see that. I can see that I don't think any move on that thing was even near my limit. Like I just got it to the point where everything kind of flowed and I just, I tried hard, but like all of my screaming was just like fear and excitement screaming. Like there there wasn't really like there's one move where like I really had to kind of give it almost everything, like slapping up this like high left hand into what's like a very flat kind of slopey hold where I really had to squeeze it. But almost that entire boulder is what you were saying, which is just like, okay, try really hard for a second and then figure out what I could relax so that I could move my foot a little higher or move my next arm. And so it was really interesting to watch that progression. Whereas like in the beginning, everything was trying hard. I was tense the entire time. I was just like every muscle was engaged and I was just trying to do what I could to just hold on. Whereas at the end, it was like, try, relax, try, relax.
yeah,
It was just a very interesting progression. And that was the first time I've ever experienced that. It was very cool.
yeah, it's a thing that doesn't make sense until you realize like you're always going to be tense in like the muscles that are pulling, but if you tense in the antagonist to those muscles, you're gonna lock up.
Right.
So you relax more than you think you do, and then that keeps you tight in the places you want to be, and then allows you to move the stuff you need to. Like I think the hangs are a really good example of that because you're solid in the shoulder, but you're not tensing the bicep, and you have your hands activated. So there's just this like 2 points in that chain that are doing all the work, but they're allowing you to actually move if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really, really felt it. It was very cool. Yeah, man, I'm excited. Well, maybe we'll identify some fun new objective on the boulder side. In the meantime, V8 on the Kilter, and then I'm going to start building up that endurance for a big sports season in the fall. But we got plenty of time between now and then, so we'll talk about it. And yeah, dude, thank you again, man. What a fun journey this has been. We're only getting started, man. We're only getting warmed up. I'm hyped.
Yeah, I think we should bring you out to Tahoe for a training camp at some point. Just put you on the board, take you out to a bunch of the classic eights in the area, and just there's this really good long like power endurance but physical 8 Flight of the Mud Falcon. You should look it up. It's really sick.
Killer. All right.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it. Yeah, dude, I'd love to. I'd love to get out there and session. In the meantime, we'll session from afar on the Kilter. And I can't say enough about that. There's no way this would have happened if I hadn't put that Kilter full ride in my basement. I mean, there's just zero freaking chance. The amount of progress that I made on that board over the past 6 months, and in particular the boulders that you gave me on that went right at my weak spots. In particular, like the crux moves being kind of move one or two, which is really hard for me psychologically as a sport climber
Yeah.
to just try hard right off the pad. I don't know. I mean, I think I still would have been able to do this boulder, but I think it would have taken me years. I'm not kidding. Like the Kilter board was a freaking cheat code for being able to achieve this objective as fast as I did.
You put in the work. So that's really the thing. I mean, they do pay me, so I should say it's all the board's doing, but it's like it's the tool, and you made the most of it with your effort, and that's really the thing that like did it, is your time and your commitment. Like you could put a nail in a fence with a rock, it would just suck. You just had the hammer this time, and like
Right. I hear what you're saying, but also like you were also the master carpenter there showing me how to use the hammer in that analogy, because if I had just put the board in and left to my own devices, which I was for a little bit before we got our plan kicked off, I was climbing things that didn't push me out of my comfort zone. I would climb hard things, but things where the crux was high, or things where it was a style I knew I could do, or where I could put it together in a couple of goes. And it really took you to force me essentially to learn how to use that tool in the best way possible. And it meant doing stuff that was really uncomfortable and that really
yeah,
challenged me, not only physically, but like mentally and emotionally,
oh yeah,
like I was like, damn you, Kevin. But then it paid off. So it was, I guess it was just, high tide raises all ship. Like we had this perfect combination of like a great tool, a great coach, a climber in me that was like really psyched and willing to put in the work and be humbled. And that formula, if you will, is what resulted in the send. So thank you
yeah.
for being that part of the
Well,
formula.
thanks for trusting me. That's
Hell
the
yeah.
thing. Like, it's a big deal for me for someone to trust me with their passion. And I'm glad I got to like help.
All right, y'all. That does it. I am out of here. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to bury my kids. My kids are going to bury me. I'm going to do a little body surfing. And I will see you when I'm back from spring break. I hope you're having an awesome week. I really love hearing from you all. You can hit me up on Instagram or over on Patreon. Thank you for your support. By the way, if you want to work with Kevin, Kevin doesn't have Instagram. What a boss. Talk about a flex to be like not on Instagram. Man, that must be nice. So anyway, yeah, Kevin's not on Instagram, but if you want to work with Kevin, I think he takes clients. Actually, I don't know. I don't know like how booked he is right now, but he's like a really thoughtful S&C coach, and he wrote all of my off the wall training programs, which really like helped to bulletproof my shoulders and my body and build up my hamstrings for heel hooks and all of that good stuff. And then he also wrote all of my Kilter board training. So if you want to work with him, you can reach out to, I think his email, what's his email? Training at kiltergrips.com. You know what? I'll put it in the show notes. I'm trying to remember it. It's training at something. Anyway, that's Kevin. He's awesome. If you want to reach out to him, if you have any questions or you want to maybe work with him, hit him with an email. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I'm really psyched, you guys. I did the thing, and I'm still feeling like piping strong and stoked and very motivated. And I just went out right before I left for Florida. I went out and got on some mega enduro routes in the Motherlode, in the Madness Cave and Undertow areas of the Red River Gorge. And that was, I'll save that for like the next plog, or I think we're going to do an episode with Eric Hurst coming up here, like a Road 2 episode with Eric Hurst to talk about kind of fall goals and all of that. But man, talk about a bucket of cold water on the face. I've been used to climbing much shorter things, and I think I like 7 hung Chainsaw Massacre and then got on just the first half of Flower Power. But the good news is I was like super stoked and inspired by Flower Power and just being in that really beautiful, epic Madness Cave of the Motherlode. So to be continued and to be determined, but I'm feeling a little fire burning in me on the super steep like enduro side of things. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. I'll put some more thought into it when I get back from vacation. And now the waves are calling. I hope you're having an awesome day. I hope you have an awesome week, and I will see you soon.